Okay, I'm coming live. And I think I'm live on LinkedIn. I don't know if that's true, but I've been approved, and I think this is going live to Facebook, to YouTube, and to LinkedIn all at the same time. So fingers crossed, because I was really tired of uploading the videos. And, selfishly, that's what this is all about, right? So it is September. My name is Trisha Broderick. I am with Ignite Insight and Innovation. And for the first Friday of each month, I'm going to go live with just some tips, or honestly, I feel a rant coming on. So next month might end up being a rant. I don't know. I'm feeling very ranty and soapboxy. But today we're going to focus in on some top tips for leaders when it comes to training. So many leaders will say things like, but Trisha, I don't do what you do. I'm a leader. I don't train. I have the luxury of having materials, workbooks, dedicated attention over a period of time, all of these different areas. You sometimes as a leader have to train down the hallway, or at least in the days when we were together, or over email, or just different areas. Oh, and I must be live because I can see Jamie and Bonnie now. So this is so cool that I'm actually live. But you don't always have the luxury as a leader to have the same conditions I do as a trainer to train. And yet I will also still then hear leaders say things like, oh, I'll just do it myself. It's faster. Or, oh, I've told them to do it this way 14 times, and apparently I have to tell them a 15th way. Because we're not teaching leaders training skills. We're not teaching leaders how to help transfer that knowledge so it doesn't all stay with you. And there's a lot out there. There's a lot of different models. This is quick videos, so I'm not going to go through all of them, but I just you can look at Training from the Back of the Room, Accelerated Learning, Diana Larson's 5 Rules of Learning, excuse me. So there's a lot of different things out there, but I want to give some general tips, because these are just things that no matter what model or layout you use, if you're not doing these things, chances are you're not going to be very successful as a leader in getting that knowledge transferred. And that's really what you're trying to accomplish to do. So the first one is, don't fire hose them. There's a reason that I do these tips, and I do them under 10 minutes. I try for the video, because if I just tell you 30,000 things all at once, it doesn't stick. It might make us as individual leaders feel really smart, because look at all the things we know, but it is not helping to transfer knowledge. So really get to what do they need to know? What's the base thing that they have to start with? You'll get time to highlight exceptions or other alternatives or scenarios, complexity later. Focus in on the first steps that they need. Otherwise, it's just kind of coming in one ear and going out the other, because it's too much information. Second tip, let them talk. Now, I know the irony of this. Here I am telling you the top tips, and I'm the only one talking because it's streaming. But you can put a comment in the links or things, because I can now see them. But the reality is when we learn best, when we let it stick with us, is because we talk about it. The fact that I do these tips, it reinforces it for me. It helps me to put it in my own words. And we don't always give our teams that opportunity to internalize it, to say it that makes most sense in their brain. Otherwise, you start to hear things like, well, I don't know, just ask Trisha. Trisha, you should have heard her say it. No, that still leaves the information with me. I want to get to a place where you're able to articulate that story, that concept, that information. And a lot of times that means being able to talk it through, not just listen. Yes, listening is super important. This is not advice to not listen. No. But when you're training people as a leader, let them talk, let them process, let them work through things, putting it in their own words. 3, keep it fun. I know that some things that you've got to train others on is just boring. I get it. I've been there. Nobody wants to work in the time management system. Nobody enjoys the expense reports. I understand. But the reality is you can still laugh through things. You can still connect to some meaning of why we're doing it or why it's important. And if you don't, and you just make it a checklist, unless you're like me who likes checklists, and I know I'm weird, okay? I make list of list. But the reality is, unless you like that, chances are it's too boring and your brain's going to go into autopilot mode, which means it will not retain the information. So keep it alive, keep their energy while that learning is happening. Keep it focused on what it means and the purpose and the value that can come from doing this task. And I know that might seem like a leap when it comes to the expense reporting system or other mundane tasks that you have to teach other people how to do, but I'm managing to laugh, and so can you in different areas, right? Ask them for their nightmare stories of expense reporting. That will get some engagement right there with it. But just try when you're training to keep it alive, keep that energy there as well. 4, not only can you overwhelm people with too much information, you can also overwhelm people with things that just go all over the map. So I've been kind of keeping it consistent. Like, here's the top tips, and I'm just building. I'm not going to overwhelm you with 30,000. It's going to stick to 5, right? But also there's an element of, does this story keep building, right? Like, what do you need to know? Are you having them talk? Get some energy. If you don't have flow versus going all over the map of like train at 8 a.m. in the morning, like just random things that don't even seem like the same top tips, it causes your brain to kind of go, what is she talking about? Something totally different now? Is she now talking about leaders? Like, I could go off on a side rant about expense reports right now. I've been known to do that. Could totally do it. It is not helping your training. So you got to be a little bit careful when you're trying to keep it alive and keeping that energy, that you're also keeping it fluent to the topic at hand. Sure, you can throw in a little bit here or there, but if you get sidetracked and all of a sudden you're on a rant about expense reports, you're actually hurting that experience of transferring that knowledge. And the last thing I'm going to actually challenge, and this one might be the hardest for leaders a little bit sometimes. How many more disclaimers can I put in there? Do you really need to train them? Training is about transferring knowledge. A lot of times they have the knowledge, but they need just a little bit more, or they need a little bit of a boost of confidence. In that case, you actually want to be mentoring, not training. If you keep trying to retrain somebody on something that they have been trained, you're actually missing the point that there's something deeper going on. It's not that they can't follow your training or your rules or your steps. It's that there's something that's not being said. There's something else that's going on. Maybe it's a confidence issue. Maybe it's an elephant. Maybe there's something else there that, or maybe your training isn't sufficient. But if you're that many times into trying, explore alternatives, explore some mentoring, explore coaching, facilitate it, or best, let them just do it. Because then they'll fail potentially, and then you can help them learn from that. Sometimes the best way to get our knowledge is to experience when it doesn't work. And as leaders, we think, no, we cannot let other people repeat our mistakes. But the only reason you know it's a mistake is because you got to experience it. Don't steal that learning from other people. There's a difference in a timing sometimes of when you really need to train and when you may need to mentor or support in other ways. Trying to train just to make your life more efficient and it's probably going to backfire. So consider upfront too, is this really something you need to train? Is this something that they can experiment with and learn on their own about too? So those are my tips. As I'm coming in, I hope they're a little bit helpful. This is nice that I'm going live and I can see something and see comments coming in. I still wish I could see faces, but that's selfish on my part, and I know it. For upcoming materials and trainings, our next LAT, I think we have one spot left in our next LAT in September. Otherwise, I have 2 public offerings for conflict and microaggressions in October. Everything else is not till November. So limited on the public space, but I want to hear your stories. I want to hear your stories about training as leaders. And if you ever need anything, just holler. And I hope this worked. Otherwise, I just did almost 11 minutes to myself. Either way, it's fine. It's Friday. It's September. And see you next month. Oh, and I'm going to put into the comments because I think now it will show up there for that. So perfect. Have a good day.